Geosequestration, we've seen the Gorgon project and Chevron execute a plan and to geosequester several TCF of CO2 over the life of the Gorgon project. And the baseline monitoring that has gone into that project and the sheer logistics of establishing a CO2 baseline, together with the ongoing monitoring and the capital investment required to not only strip out the CO2 but to re-inject it into that reservoir, is a fairly substantial undertaking. Now, it's not every situation where you have a largely depleted reservoir that you can inject your CO2 into, but Barrow Island is a billion-barrel oil field. It's been producing for a long time. We know that that area seals its reservoir liquid hydrocarbons, obviously, for a long time. So the challenge is that's a really unique set of circumstances, and geosequestration obviously works for the project proponents on the Gorgon project. Other folks are looking at biosequestration, and whether it's planting trees or whether the emerging field of using algae to absorb and convert CO2 and actually start to think about producing saleable products out of that process is a different treatment, and certainly some of the large coal producers or the coal-fired power stations on the east coast are really starting to take this project seriously as a mechanism for dealing with the oncoming cost of carbon. So, you know, there's a lot happening behind the scenes, and there's no one solution for everything. So we're starting to see a portfolio approach. Now, in that context, we see methanol as a mechanism for sequestering CO2. Now, it's not the product we prefer to produce. We obviously love to produce LNG for all of the reasons that we've heard not only from David but earlier this morning. However, when life deals you CO2, you've got to deal with it. And I've shown an example here where down the bottom, I've shown this before, the ideal concentration of CO2 in the input gas stream to make methanol is approximately 25%. So all of a sudden, we have a process that benefits from the inherent CO2 in the system, and we also create a product that we can sell. Now, the diagram above shows around a 4.5 TCF gas field with about 9% CO2, and we chose 9% as an example because that's the blended feed gas composition for the Gorgon project. The high CO2 Gorgon fields are being blended with the low CO2 Iojance gas to create a feed gas stream of 9%. Well, if we took 9% in the Timor Sea, for instance, and there's a few fields around that have that, Abadi's one, Ichthys is another, and we split that input gas stream into CO2, pure methane, and a CO2 gas stream. With the pure methane, we could obviously liquefy that and make it LNG, and everybody would be pretty happy. But with the residual, what we do with the CO2 that we've stripped out of that is recombine it with the 9% input feedstock and boost that level up to around 25%. And when you look at the end game, in terms of splitting that feed gas stream, 3/4 of it becomes 67% of your revenue as far as LNG is concerned, but 26% of that feed gas stream generates 33% of revenue for out of the methanol. So this is starting to distort the economics a little bit, and you know, it's been much maligned, this product, for being a nuisance value chemical feedstock, but here's a situation where clearly the economics are starting to at least make you sit up and take notice as a viable potential alternative.